Nothing can send chills down your spine quite like an anime villain making a badass entrance. After all, what's a villain who can't make your jaw drop with their sudden surprise appearance, catching our heroes completely off guard? Here's today's video on the top villain entrances in anime by ViniiTube. Starting off our list of the most terrifying villains with Hideyoshi from Sengoku Basara. Hideyoshi is an absolutely ruthless and power-hungry warlord who would do anything to reach his goal. His body isn't the only big thing about him, his personality is equally huge. You see, this dude has this unstoppable drive to unify Japan, and he believes that he is the one for the job. What's crazy is that this guy is the only one in the anime who doesn't have any weapons. While others are busy wielding swords or spears and whatnot, Hideyoshi's got two weapons of mass destruction: his fists and his brute strength. He's an absolute unit. Imagine hundreds of arrows coming your way and you parry all of them with a single movement of your arm. Hideyoshi is the guy capable of doing just that, and we see that stunning display of power in his badass entrance scene. It's not every day that you see a man deflecting arrows just like that. When it comes to badass and terrifying villains, Dracula always comes to mind. Dracula isn't just an old vampire, he is the vampire. He's sophisticated yet menacing, ready to destroy humanity because they killed his wife. And let's be real, if someone harmed your loved one, you might want to wreak a little havoc too. After his wife was wrongfully murdered, he appeared out of fire and gave the people of Wallachia 1 year to flee from their country. I mean, given that he's a terrifying vampire overlord, at least he's given them a pretty sweet deal, right? Having 365 days to run away from your death? Too big of a chance to just throw it away, isn't it? Dracula looked absolutely badass emerging out of the fire, or should I say the hellfire. His sheer presence was too much for the humans to handle. This is one of the most unforgettable moments in the series. There's one thing that we learned after watching Dracula, that tragic villains can't be hated even if they're wrong in their actions, or would you even call it wrong when they were just provoked in the first place? Next up we have Hakumen no Mono, who enjoys a godlike status amongst yokai because of being born from the malice and fear of humanity. He's the kind of anime villain that would actually scare you and give you nightmares if you look at him long enough. His creepy design and voice make him a terrifying creature in the anime. One of Hakumen's most terrifying abilities is his power to alter and wipe people's minds. He's capable of wiping off everyone's memories of him as if they had never seen him before. I mean, how can you even forget such a terrifying existence? One word to describe him is traumatic. He's the kind of villain who would make everyone piss their pants. Hakumen no Mono sure knows how to make an entrance. In one of the most memorable entrances, he tears apart the maidens while revealing his tails. It's a scene that's both flashy and gory, and it's one of the most badass and terrifying ways to show up. Not only that, he massacred hundreds of men who tried to attack him, and that bombastic side eye at the end? Absolutely badass. Moving on, we have the kind of anti-hero who can't be surpassed no matter how smart you are. This dude will make you submit, all thanks to his Geass. Now, Lelouch's existence from head to toe screams badass, but in this one scene from the Code Geass movie, Lelouch of Resurrection, Lelouch stuns everybody with his epic entrance. You'd be lying if you said you didn't get goosebumps, especially when those trumpets started playing as soon as Lelouch showed up. The Zilkistan forces had been hurt in CC, and no one goes unscathed when Lelouch's waifu is in pain. As he shows up, the vibe around him shifts. It felt as if a literal angel had hailed. Despite the angelic aura, Lelouch is no saint. He's more like a fallen angel and a nightmare for Zilkistan's men as he commanded them to kill themselves. Their clock was already ticking when they hurt Cici, so they should have known better. Let's take a moment and say all hail Lelouch, because he made a great appearance. Moving on, we have a villain that we love to hate and hate to love. Yes, I'm talking about Dio from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, a badass vampire that's made the lives of all JoJo's hell. Dio returns in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusaders facing Jotaro and his grandpa Joseph. You see, Dio has this ability to freeze time for a few seconds, and in those few seconds, he can do whatever the hell he wants. In this scene, he stops the time for 5 seconds, but those were the longest 5 seconds of my life. Anyway, back to his badass entrance. He absolutely loved mocking Joseph. He didn't even give him the time to properly explain his stand to Jotaro. And the poor bystanders? Dio could have just walked past them, but he had to mess with all of them. Now that's the kind of power and badassery every villain needs in their lives. Whenever Dio makes an appearance in the anime, he makes sure to never be forgotten.
次は丈太郎貴様だ
This priest is a walking arsenal and has some personal issues with vampires. He's the only human warrior who can closely match Alucard's powers. His choice of weapons? Blessed bayonets and seemingly endless supplies of sharp blades. His entry against Alucard and his men is one of the most iconic ones. I'm pretty sure Maxwell called Anderson just to scare the opposing party and avoid a fight, but the one thing he'd forgotten is that Anderson and Alucard would love to fight. It's evident from the way they face each other. Maxwell was really regretting his decision when he tried to stop Anderson, but we all know when Anderson starts, no one can stop him. You could watch this scene 1,000 times and it wouldn't fail to amaze you every single time. Anderson's gangster walk will occupy your mind for days.
すまないトラ、前々からいい個性だと。ちょうどいいからもらうことにしたんだ。
Let's move on to All For One, who loves to collect quirks like their Pokemon cards. In a world where quirks are everything, All For One proves to be an extremely dangerous villain to society. This guy doesn't just collect quirks for fun, he uses them to wreak havoc and pull the strings of society's most dangerous villains. You see, whenever All For One shows up, there's a sudden shift in the air and everybody freezes in fear as soon as they see him. Why? Because they know how terrifying All For One's powers are. There's this unforgettable scene where All For One, even in a nerve state, shows up and obliterates a squad of heroes like he's swatting flies. If there's one villain that's the very embodiment of fear, it's All For One.
All For One
さて、やるか。
今日こそお前の息の根が止まる日だ。サイヤ人よ。
Ah yes, Black Goku. He's not just a darker version of Goku, he's also an extremely powerful villain with a twisted sense of justice. He appears before our heroes as he travels to the past thanks to his time ring. Black Goku shocked everyone with his appearance as he looked exactly like Goku. Even Goku felt like he was looking at himself in the mirror, but Black Goku's powers are on another level. As soon as he steps out of his time ring, you know things are about to get serious. Black Goku's aura is just so menacing and heavy that our heroes can't help but feel the urgency to take him out as soon as possible. Black Goku possesses the typical Saiyan strength, but with a divine twist, thanks to Zamasu's mind inhabiting Goku's body. And did you notice? Black Goku's hair is pitch black, while Goku's hair is a bit shiny. I know that's probably useless information, but oh well.
お別れは済んだか、サイヤ人。
It's time for me to remind you to give this video a like if you haven't done so already. I appreciate the time you spend to watch my videos. Each comment, like and subscribe keeps me motivated to do better and make more videos especially for you. So thank you for being a part of my community, and on that note, let's enter the top 10.
いいよ、ばあちゃん。今までにない。
If there's one character that comes to my mind when I hear the word badass, it's Doji from Jujutsu Kaisen. He's literally an embodiment of "you are not weak, I'm just stronger." This non-sorcerer guy flipped the switch after being ostracized by his clan for not having cursed energy. So what did he do? He turned into a sorcerer killer, making his lack of cursed energy into his greatest weapon. Toji's return in the Shibuya arc was a jaw-dropping moment for all of us. I mean, the dude had been dead for years, resting in peace, or so we thought. Thanks to Ogami and her seance technique, Toji is resurrected, and boy oh boy did he make an entrance. First on his agenda, absolutely annihilating Ino. Poor Ino didn't even see it coming, but Toji didn't stop there. He even destroyed Ogami, the old woman who summoned him. Bro literally smacked Granny without any hesitation. This wasn't even a fight, it was just a violation. Equipped with an arsenal of extremely powerful spells and abilities, Ainz is the supreme ruler of an undead army. This dude doesn't have to pull any fancy or flashy moves to look badass, he just needs to exist. His mere presence is enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. Ainz makes his badass entry against the Lizardmen, freezing the ground beneath them. Actually, he didn't just freeze the ground, he froze the Lizardmen's hopes and dreams at the same time. He makes sure to make the Lizardmen experience a grand show right in front of their very own eyes. His entrance looked more like a royal procession, to be honest, and I'm not complaining because that's exactly how a villain as deadly as Ainz should make an entrance. He's got to make sure that everyone knows he's the boss. You know, everyone's gangster until Ainz pulls out his gaming chair. I mean his throne.
あれは一体。
知らないあんなの知らないわ国の命さえさらう
Up next, we have Utsuro. Utsuro from Gintama is the kind of villain who's been around for centuries, accumulating all this power and knowledge, which practically makes him unstoppable. What makes him even more terrifying is his calm demeanor. You never know what this guy is thinking. He made a badass entry when he confronted Sogo, Nobume, and Kagura. The three of them felt something shifting in the air, and it was just Utsuro's presence. He's just like a dark cloud rolling before a heavy and deadly storm. Imagine having that kind of power. You walk into a room, and everyone knows you mean business. Well, that's Utsuro for you. One thing I'm sure about is that when Utsuro appears and plays his theme, even the devil trembles.
いることに。この俺が王。
When it comes to one of the most iconic as well as badass villain entrances, we can't miss out on Neferpito's birth scene. Neferpito is equipped with some of the most terrifying and overpowered abilities in the series. You know you've reached peak badassery when you scare someone like Netero, the grandmaster of all things powerful. Neferpito makes a badass entrance when they find Ramut and Peggy's conversation interesting. The way Neferpito just materializes behind the two out of nowhere is the stuff of nightmares. One second it's just Ramut and Peggy chatting away, and then next, boom, there's Pito with that menacing and dark aura that screams, "You're in big trouble now." Ramut, who's been enthusiastically discussing his grand ambitions, loses all of his nerve in an instant. Neferpito scared the treachery right out of him. It's as if Pito's presence pressed the reset button on his rebellious spirit. Neferpito really scared the treachery out of him. Ramut was humbled real quick.
決して覆ることのない。あらかじめ決められた地位。
If you want to have nightmares all night long, Magical Girl Madoka Magica is the kind of anime you need to watch. Out of many nightmare-inducing villains in this anime series, Walpurgis Night is the most twisted and most creepy one of them. Walpurgis Night, aka the Witch of Disaster, is the final boss of all the witches, a walking apocalypse that laughs in the face of disaster. She makes a grand entrance against our girl Homura, and the entire scene around her changes as if she decided the weather was just too cheerful and needed a serious downgrade. Walpurgis Night proved to be an impossible to overcome challenge. Imagine having the power to flatten an entire city. Walpurgis Night is just too overpowered for anyone to face her. Also, did you notice how Walpurgis Night was laughing all the time? Wrong, she was actually crying. This makes the entire scene all the more creepy. Walpurgis Night is the kind of villain none of us would like to see in real life, am I right?
誰の許しを得て表を上げる。あれを恐れることはない。
Moving on to Gilgamesh, the kind of villain we love even more than the hero. This king of heroes has a god complex, and rightfully so, because he's incredibly powerful and can destroy anyone he wants. Gilgamesh makes his badass entrance against assassin Zaid when he comes to kill Gilgamesh's master. Poor Zaid knew that Gilgamesh would be a problem in his mission, but while Kirei told him not to be afraid, let's face it, Zaid should have been terrified. You see, Gilgamesh doesn't waste a single second before killing his target, and this time Zaid was his unlucky victim. Gilgamesh definitely He is the ultimate villain we love to hate. With his god complex, overwhelming powers, and an attitude that screams arrogance, he's a character who steals every scene he's in. His entrance against Zaid is a perfect example of why Gilgamesh is both terrifying and captivating. He just makes sure that he's superior to anyone who dares to challenge him. This is the level of badassery that every villain needs. Next up, we have Quincy's from Bleach, and unlike the Soul Reapers who purify hollows and send them to the great beyond, Quincy's obliterate them out of existence. They're the ultimate villains for our heroes and not the ones they can underestimate. In Bleach's 1000-year Blood War arc, 7 masked Quincy's pay a visit to Yamamoto, and their visit isn't a normal one. They're here to declare war in the most dramatic way possible. And how do they do it? By killing one of Yamamoto's right-hand men, sticking him on an arrow and launching him into the wall, just as if they were pinning down a note. Bro, the disrespect was so real. Honestly, the sheer audacity of this move is off the charts. It makes it very clear to us that the Quincy's fear no one, not even someone as strong and seasoned as Yamamoto. In this brutal and unapologetically savage display, the Quincy's showed they're not to be underestimated. If there's one villain that's absolutely terrifying and capable of making Naruto's characters piss their pants, it's Madara Uchiha. He makes his badass entrance during the 4th Great Ninja War in a way that can be only described as epic. As soon as he steps out, it's clear that this guy is capable of causing destruction and chaos. His sheer existence is enough to run shivers down everyone's spine. This is the level of badass that only Madara Uchiha can achieve. Madara's entrance seemed like a revelation or prophecy. All the others look like ants in front of him. Dude just stands there with that look of just the right mixture of arrogance and disdain, knowing fully well that he can crush all of them without even breaking a sweat. The fact that fans had to wait for years to see this badass entrance makes it 10 times greater. This is undoubtedly one of the most glorious entrance scenes of a villain in the history of anime. Ah yes, the Colossal Titan, a titan that gives you nightmares for months. He appeared in the very first episode of Attack on Titan, and since then his face has been etched in our minds. It was such an unforgettable moment that every Attack on Titan fan would take to their grave. Colossal Titan isn't just big, it's colossal, hence the name. When he shows up, you can practically hear the sound of jaws dropping. This big bad boy makes sure that every single person is looking at him, and boy oh boy, the way he takes our souls away in the first look, not in a good way. The Colossal Titan's entry scene was nothing short of majestic. This scene really nails the whole apocalypse vibe, not with a bang of nuclear fire, but with the slow, visceral horror of being chewed up like a snack by these colossal, effed up beasts. The Colossal Titan's entry scene is sure to give you goosebumps even when you see it after 10 years. Let's talk about the walking force of nature, Kaido, the indestructible villain from One Piece. Imagine not being able to die no matter how hard someone tries to kill you. Well, that's Kaido for you. Being indestructible is one thing, but being the strongest creature in the universe takes it to a whole new level. Kaido's transformation into a dragon is an unforgettable one, and I know you'll agree with me. As if he wasn't scary enough in his original form, Kaido is downright terrifying when he transforms into a dragon. The background crackling sound made that entrance even more thrilling. When Kaido transforms into a colossal sky-blackening dragon, it's clear that he can swallow fleets of ships in one bite. And his roar, it's a wake-up call for anyone who thought they could kill Kaido and live to tell the tale. Kaido's aura as a dragon was on another level, and that made our heroes go into their thinking mode, because this guy can't be defeated with their mess around and find out strategy anymore. The The top spot is reserved for none other than the Michael Jackson of anime, Muzan Kibitsuji from Demon Slayer. He broke the internet with the most badass entry in the history of anime. I believe the animators spent all of their budget creating that single scene. The aura Muzan emanates is just so dark and sinister that Ubayashiki could still feel him from a distance despite not being able to see. You know it's serious when even Ubayashiki, the big boss, starts feeling those villainous vibes deep down inside him. It literally gives you shivers and you can't help but watch it again and again. Muzan just showed how the smooth criminals walk. See what I did there? The Demon Slayer can't just let it slide, man. Here's a fun fact for you. If you see it in reverse, you'd see Michael Jackson moonwalking. In short, this villain's entrance deserves all the spotlight in the world.
醜悪な姿だな、産屋敷。
That's a wrap for today. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up before you go. And if you're new here actually, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell icon for the latest updates on our videos. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out the most legendary villain versus villain fights in anime. That's it for today. I'll see you in the next one. Hora hora.